I think it's at 7.
Good evening, welcome to the school building committee meeting for November 12th, 2013 for the Georgetown Middle High School project. And our first order of business will be the approving the minutes from October 15th, 2013. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of October 15th, 2013.
So moved.
That's not the one. Oh, yeah.
Second?
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
One abstain, because I wasn't there.
I wasn't
Okay.
there either. Abstain.
Kelly and Rob abstain. Any opposed? No, motion carries. Okay, and we do not have an invoice from municipal. You said you only had a couple hours.
Yeah,
and you
we'll
were-
just roll it in.
You'll do it next month, okay, so there's no invoice for municipal. And DRA is October 2013. Yep,
Don't we have Pembroke minutes too?
this is only the middle high school
Okay,
agenda that we're doing right now.
all right.
All right, and DRA's invoice for October 2013 was $2,651.50. So I'd like to make a motion to approve DRA's invoice for October 2013 for $2,651.50.
So moved?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I am gonna pass this around for everyone to sign, since Ellie's not here and I didn't do a cover sheet for the middle high school. You can sign that and date that, thank you. All right, the minutes, George, you will get, we had a question about no minutes being posted on the website after August, but we only had either 1 or 2 meetings in September.
They've been posted.
Right. And then those will be posted, and then we just approved the minutes for October, so those will be posted. All right, Pat, Chuck, do you guys have an update for us on the middle high school?
Yeah, the only update we have basically is what we've been waiting for and what was submitted on October 29th in answer to some questions posed by MSB. It were the last questions posed before they would approve us into the board meeting. They did accept them. They've approved us into the board meeting, and on next Wednesday, they will approve the project to move into the schematic design phase. So that's basically what we were waiting for, and it's been confirmed that we're on the board agenda,
Okay.
and that's tantamount to an approval. It'll be rubber stamped on next Wednesday.
Now, who would you suggest go to that meeting? Because that's one of the big ones, right?
Well, it's you know, it's an MSBA board meeting, and they like to see, obviously, any dignitaries that have the time to come in. I think yourself, obviously,
Yeah,
and
I'm on
if any of the other members want to come in, or school committee chairman, I think that there've been times when school committee chairs come in, selectmen chairs come in on occasion. So it's, again, like I said, they like to see that kind of participation to the extent that people are available.
They usually recognize.
If you want to have your local, they will, obviously, your local rep, your representative will usually send somebody if they're not available, a staff member, so you'd let them know that as well.
Okay, so Carol and Pat, can I leave you guys in charge of coordinating?
Well, I'll certainly ask Barbara
Yeah.
if she's
Right,
interested in
yeah.
going.
Yeah,
I know Dayton Circus has gone in the past.
in the past, yeah.
But when he was the chair.
Right,
And I think John's gonna come on.
okay, so if you guys can just
Yeah,
keep
so
me in the
we're
loop
good,
with
we're good to
who's
go,
going.
yeah. And I know, I
Else from the
believe
committee wants to
DRA is
go.
already working on the schematics project already, on the basis that it's, basically, it's been accepted in, and once it's accepted in, they won't let you come into the board meeting unless they're gonna accept it, so we're pretty much set.
Okay. Carl, do you have anything else to add about the board meeting and our project
No,
schedule?
just
for
as
the-
Pat said, we had not only the follow-up submission there was a follow-up phone call or conversation too with Chris Allis, just to clarify some things. As we mentioned previously, their concerns were about the drainage at the high school and making sure it was included in the scope of the project, which it is. And they were trying to sort of push us collectively to do as much investigation as we could now to best define the scope of work needed there. We explained that funds are limited, and originally this was gonna get done as part of a FEMA grant, and so, but we had confidence that we had the scope in there. Yes, we are gonna do more testing when, additional funds become available, and we will, better define it, but we think we've got a good scope now, and we just responded to that, not only in that submission, but in a sort of follow-up email to reassure them. And as Pat says, we haven't heard back, they're good to go, so we're on the agenda for the 20th.
Yeah, we happened to
So-
see Mary Piketty at another meeting we were up there on, and she's the one that advised us at the time before we found out officially that they had received everything and everything was go for the board meeting.
Okay, so and we're confident with the information we have, just because we couldn't do extensive testing because we didn't include it in our feasibility study, that what we have is gonna give us the sufficient information that we need to move forward and
Right,
stuff like
right.
that, right?
Yep.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? No? Okay, so our next meeting is Tuesday, December 10th, 2013, up here on the third floor. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the Georgetown Middle High School meeting.
So
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay. That's good. 12 minutes. Good evening and welcome to the School Building Committee meeting for November 12th, 2013 for the Pembroke School project. All right, no one here from the public. All right, so our first order of business will be to approve minutes from October 15th and November 5th. All right, so George, do that. October 15th. All right, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from October 15th, 2013.
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion on the minutes of October 15th?
You've got me listed there and I wasn't there.
Okay.
Okay, so you were... Okay. All right. Chuck, did you get that correction? Okay. All right. So all in favor of approving them with that one correction that Tilly made?
Aye.
Abstain. But I'll abstain.
Rob and Tilly abstain. Anyone opposed? No. Okay, and then the November 5th minutes. I actually have a couple of things. Chuck, you have Barbie Linares, the school committee chair, listed under non-voting members. I think she should be other attendees because she's actually not a non-voting member.
Okay.
And then on page 2, I under where Carl was going through the presentation. I think, I'm not sure if some of this information just got a little mixed up, where it says the Phase 2 proposal was misplaced with a change in DRA personnel. And then right under it, DRA indicated that they believe that Phase 1 recommendations did not require the Phase 2 to be done. I don't remember if we actually talked about that at the meeting. I know they said, when the lead checklist was required, it was discovered that there was no Phase 2. I know we had talked about that.
Okay, I had notes that
Yeah.
was discussed.
Michelle,
Yep,
if I may too, up above, this ties into that, under phase 1, where there are 1, 2, 3 points.
Yep.
And then it says the phase report recommended additional testing of these areas.
yep,
That's not technically correct. In the phase 1 report, it didn't recommend additional testing. That was actually the consultant recommended additional testing, but it wasn't contained in the report, in the phase 1 report.
okay,
So that's why I think down below, I might have said something like that evening, that the phase 1 report didn't require additional testing be done. It wasn't in the body of the report. It was a recommendation from the consultant after he delivered the report that additional testing be done.
okay,
It's maybe a semantic difference, but.
yeah.
It is confusing, I agree with you, and what I was concerned with is that you had the date for the Phase 1, 2011, but the Phase 2 wasn't done until this year. So-
That's correct.
So that ought to be placed in there.
It's a fourth bullet down from there.
Yeah, that was
In
one
September,
area.
I could add
2013.
2013 there, sure. It's a good point.
But it wasn't easy to read that paragraph.
Right. Okay, so, yeah, unfortunately, there's no tape to review because we were on the second floor last week. Do you want to redo these?
I can
And-
fix these and just based on these comments and you can.
Okay, so, yeah, so the phase report recommended additional testing of these areas. That's not
I'm
accurate.
gonna change the consultant recommended additional testing when they deliver the report. Is that accurate, Carl?
Yes.
But am I mistaken? That sentence is not correct because the DEP requires you to go further.
They
No.
don't. tell you.
No,
No? Once you
No.
put it on there, it doesn't generate that.
no, because, well, Carl can explain, but I don't think the phase 1 is submitted to the DEP.
It just identified recognized environmental conditions.
Right.
Right, which were the three listed up above. Right, so like I said, we're just trying to get the correct minutes from what we discussed last week at the meeting,
Right.
not interject. So,
Yeah.
all right, so under that, so after the phase 1, where to identify the leach field septic tank, underground storage tank, the consultant recommended that additional testing of those areas.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay,
Makes
so that
sense.
would be correct. And then,
Third, darkened bullet down,
right,
DRA brought the phase 2 proposal to the building committee in September of 2013.
yep, in September of 2013.
Test the three,
Yep.
test the 3 items identified in phase 1. Is that right too, Carl?
Yep,
Thanks.
that's good.
That makes sense.
Okay. So, and then, so about, I just don't remember you saying that you didn't believe that the phase 1 recommendations didn't require phase 2 to be done. Was that? I'm just
I
going
think
based
that's
on,
accurate,
on my memory.
because that was what I believed, that it wasn't a requirement, of the
Okay.
phase 1 report, and that was later confirmed.
And it should, that's the way it should be, that it's, in your opinion, it
Right.
didn't have to be done.
That evening, that's what I said, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so, so is everybody good with those minutes the way they are? Or the way they are?
Do we want to see them revised before we approve them again? Or do we want to approve them?
Yeah, I think we can approve them, and, if there's an issue, we can bring it up, but, they look pretty minor, so, okay. So I would make a motion to approve the November 5th, 2013 minutes as discussed,
With revisions.
with revisions.
So moved.
Yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain, I wasn't there.
Okay. Robin, George abstain, opposed? Okay, so, and just under minutes, each week there are construction minutes that are being taken with the construction meetings that they have. If anybody on this committee would like a copy of those, please just let me know, and I will have Chuck forward them to you. I'm not planning to send them out to everybody, but if you do want a copy of them, just let me know, and I'll have Chuck add you to the distribution, because I really don't want those coming through me. But I just want to let you know that those are being done, so if anybody wants those.
I
let
would
me-
like that. I would like that. But don't send them word because I can't get it.
Have
What?
one in the woods.
How are those minutes done? The construction? minutes?
Yes.
They're
Okay,
PDF.
good.
You're
I'd like to
doing
glance
it.
at
Are they being posted anywhere?
They're not, they're not,
It's
they are.
not really that.
You don't, they don't normally post the construction
They're not
meetings, they post the
posted.
committee meetings,
They're not
yeah.
actually, they're not actually there.
So what is it, a lot of scribbling, and then can you just
No,
copy
they're
that?
Oh, they're
Oh,
typed,
they're
they're
typed
typed,
out.
they're typed out minutes.
There's a lot of technical jargon in there which would be difficult for non-construction
It's not a
people to
public
comprehend,
meeting.
yeah.
What are they using for tracking? They have a
Primavera,
Primavera?
yeah, yeah. It's a CPM
Yeah, I know that.
arrangement, yeah.
They're actually using, hold on, for the ASIs and submittals.
That's right.
We'll put them in the XP side,
Okay.
and I keep them in it, so those are all things that we have to transmit to people.
I thought you were talking about just the CPM schedule.
Yeah, no, well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it.
Okay, all right, but I just wanted you guys to know that those are being done, and, so. Okay, and that's the only thing that's coming out every week from those meetings, correct, just those minutes, am I correct?
Well, there's a lot of information shared
Yeah,
back and forth,
just-
but,
yeah,
but yes,
but
that's the,
we're not-
that,
yeah,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
A lot of stuff
yeah.
attached.
Okay, okay. Okay, the next thing is approval of invoices. So, okay. So municipal, we have October 2013 invoices of $17,530. And for DRA, we have the October 2013 invoice for $38,500. And then we have an invoice for PSS 8, which was $3,135. And part of PS 9 we're being billed for, which is $3,245, for a total of $62,410. So I would like to make a motion to approve these October 2013 invoices.
So moved. We have a tag team here.
Keep it moving.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion or any questions on this? Actually, Courtney, can you, or Carl, can you just, I know we approved PSS 8 in September, and that, I believe, was for the flagging and stuff for the conservation hearing?
Right.
Is that correct? So-
Additional flagging, yeah.
Yep, so that closes out PSS 8, correct?
Right.
Okay, and then PSS 9 was for a total of 32,000 something.
$880.
$880, yep. And so we're getting a partial bill right now for 3,245.
Right.
And what was this for?
That was the first part of the Phase 2 site assessment.
Okay, so it's the first part of
I'm not
phase 2.
exactly sure which activities there were in that task list, but it was just getting started.
It says UST removal specs.
Yeah, this is, if I
Right.
could, this is the, we're putting the specs together for the bid docs for the unmapped road. That's in the bid plans.
Okay,
There's more to come, which is the rest of the phase 2 study.
right, to make up the 32,000, right?
They'll be building next month.
That's the old company then, the 8, or is this the same company, or is this the same one that came to the Concom?
Not the Concom.
Okay, does anyone have any other questions about the October, just these October invoices? No?
I'm sorry.
I just asked if anyone had any other questions about the invoices. All in favor of approving the October 2013 invoices? Aye. Opposed?
Carrie, pull up the chair.
The 13. All right, can you sign those?
No.
Pass that around. Okay. So now we will be getting invoices monthly from Brait, the general contractor. Which is this. So Chuck made a copy. It says application and certificate for payment. That is.
Number one, yeah.
Yep, that is the part of the, like, 60-page document that you guys got emailed today. And so their first payment is the $421,556.80.
Right.
Am I correct? Right. Okay, so just before we even go through that, can you guys just, I actually had it down under new business, but we'll do it now. Can you just go through the process that you go through, that we need to go through when we start approving these invoices?
I'll just walk you through that, and then Chuck will walk you through the pro-pay process and
Okay.
how that all dovetails in.
Yep,
The contractor is required to do what they call a schedule of value breakdown. He breaks down his lump sum bid of 30-some-odd million dollars into all the various categories based on the CSI breakdown by
Yeah.
section. We asked him, and he's cooperated, to make sure that he identifies in each one of those categories what's an MBE and a WBE, because we have to track those separately so we can report back to the proper officials. We also asked him to break in those various unit prices, which are part of the contract. So each one of these these divisions has all of the components included. Once he breaks that down, then we go back through and we look at the original budgets that were done to try and make sure they dovetail, and it eliminates the front-end loading on the requisition. So all of that has been checked out, and that is the basis that Chuck will be talking to MSBA on, because we have to now go back in, and we're gonna obviously reassign the values based on the actual bid to MSBA, so they can recompute their 3011 on the reimbursement side.
All right,
And we
so-
know that we're considerably underneath.
all right, so we haven't done that yet?
We can't do that until we verified the schedule of values, which we now have done.
Okay.
So now Chuck can go in and start to work with the reallocation into the ProPay system and into MSBA to have them do their recomputation of the reimbursement based on the fact that we're roughly 4 million under what they originally had approved. So they're gonna go through that whole computation. We wanted to pay particular attention to the site work, to make sure that no additional dollars were creeping from building into site, because we understand that with the site being over, they're not reimbursing anything over and above those numbers. Once that's all done, the contractor now has a basis to submit his first requisition, and the first requisition he submits comes into us, and of course, we go through the whole shoot match to look at what he is actually invoicing, look at percentages, ask for verification of certain dollars. So what you're looking at in front of you at each one of these meetings isn't what he's submitted that month, more than likely. It's what's been negotiated and reviewed and taken apart in conjunction with the architect's review. By the way, I was neglecting mentioning Pete Cox, who is the clerk of the works, our field representative. He's here tonight just to say hello to everybody. If you're ever out at the site, Peter's gonna be out there full-time. Peter's a bulldog. He's very effective, but he's also cooperative. And again, like I said, he plays a role in obviously analyzing the percentages of work that get done. So between Chuck, Pete, and ourselves, we take it apart, we transcribe our information to DRA, they go through it with their engineers, and what you see in each one of the line items is what's determined to be acceptable and fair based on the evaluation of a number of people on your team. And then in each one of these items, as you go through it, you'll find that the first requisition, some of the very big items, or the biggest items, are things like the performance and payment, bond, excuse me, for $215,000. They actually provided an invoice, and that's the bond that they provide, which assures that they are, should they have financial problems and couldn't finish, the bonding company is obliged to come in and finish the job for you. So they're buying a bond to protect the town. It's required by statute.
Right, right.
It's a performance and a payment bond. And you can see that the biggest items fall into really the mobilization. They've been working great guns for the last month, buying out all of their non-file sub-bid contractors, preparing all of the shop drawings, submitting them into DRA, and DRA obviously has been responding and reviewing the shop drawings. So again, like I said, this has been fully vetted, and as far as we're concerned, and I believe DRA is, by signing it, has also indicated that it's appropriate for the first requisition.
Okay.
You
Right,
can
do you
see
get
on
a
the
copy of
cover
this too?
page,
You get copies of
there's
this,
a
right?
spot there for the architect to sign it.
You look at it?
so. I don't think on the one that got transmitted to you was a signed one, but we have signed, whatever it is, 5 or 6 copies that we transmit to the town. These will go through Chuck and Pat, but ultimately they go to the town for payment to the contractor. But we're required by our contract to sign off on it. That basically says, to the best of our knowledge and belief, that the work is complete as represented there. It doesn't mean, just to fine tune it, it doesn't mean that all the work has been inspected and, complies with the
Contract documents.
contract documents, down to the details. There's still time that we're gonna be punch list. And if you see the backup, if you looked on your screen, you notice there's a column called retainage. So even when a contractor
Yeah.
says he's done with an item, your contract
You're holding
with him
5%.
You holding 5% back. Oh, I
always
see.
holds
Okay.
back 5%, so it allows
By
for
statute.
imperfections, defects in the work to be covered by that. So
And then when do
throughout
we
the
pay that
job,
5%?
at the very end of the job,
When the job is.
Couple years from now.
Yeah, when the job is
So on
substantially.
everything, you hold that 5% on everything?
every line item,
Yeah.
right,
Every screw, every nut, every piece of.
right.
Why in the earthwork here you have general conditions, it's all 0, and existing conditions, nothing on it? Why?
Because he hasn't
No
done
work.
any earthwork yet.
So as he does it, he's going to put this in?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Every month, it's on a percent complete basis.
So when do you think the complete schedule of values will be done?
We're zeroing in on that now. We're waiting for the final information to come through on the non-file sub-bids, because he's still buying out and so forth and breaking those things down. So as he buys things out, they supply breakdowns to him, and then he supplies them to us. So
Probably-
right now,
probably
we're.
next month.
Yeah,
Next month?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Hopefully next month.
yeah.
Yeah, it could be 2 months. We, at this point, the big item is categories, the main categories. Those have to be defined, because that's what we have to work out with the MSBA on the propane system. And we're still not there yet, we're almost there.
so you started though cutting trees and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Which is
So,
included.
but you
That's
haven't
included.
moved any earth?
Nope.
No.
No,
I got you.
Moved a few heavens, but no earth.
All right, so is there anything else then that we need to know? So you guys go through this,
Yeah.
Peter's out there, every
Yeah.
day you guys both sign off on this, you guys go through it?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, the key part of this is, when we talked about why we set up your monthly meetings to be at this time each month, is
Yeah.
because the statute requires that actually 15 days to pay that invoice once it's received and signed, executed by the architect. So he signs it as we walk in here today, once we agree, so your clock starts today.
Yeah.
That's why we do the meetings the way we're doing them. So that it gives you enough time as a town, with the committee to review it and approve it, and enough time to go through it. I then take this and I will come up and I'll sit with Mary in the finance office, I'll sit and go through this with her. I also provide her a breakdown of what goes into the propane system. We wouldn't imagine in the world that she would have to go through these 66 pages, and that's what the invoice looks like. To know what category, I provide her that breakdown, so she doesn't have to go through it. Once it's approved by you all, I put it together. So it's a process, but it works well. And it's checked every way I can tell you it's checked. And I run it through a program that I have that verifies all the math is right. Because you'd be surprised how often the math is wrong,
The secret of the system is to set it up properly from day one.
which is why it
If
takes.
you set it up from day one, in the proper categories, with everything included, this way there's no confusion on verifying the payments to the MBE, WBEs, there's no confusion on where the items belong, there's no confusion on the unit prices as to where they belong, because there's a lot of unit prices, they're scattered in different sections of the requisition. So the key is to make sure everything is in its proper location, that's been properly vetted, and then, like I said, Chuck goes through and makes sure that everything's coded properly, it goes into the propay code properly, goes into MSBA, and it works along fine. If it isn't set up right at the beginning, it becomes a very confusing process all the way through the job. So we try and work very hard to make sure it's set up right.
And all this spreadsheet is this is not, this is just my cuts of just the pieces they're billing this month. So you don't have to look through all 66 pages unless you wish to. But this is a summarize it all here, so you'll see what they're billing. or what
I
we're
think the
reading.
5% is gonna be the critical one that we gotta keep an eye on.
Oh.
That's automatic, it's an automatic
Upstairs till the end
subtraction.
of the
That's,
job.
that's, yeah.
So are we gonna get the 66 therefore
Why?
pages,
If you want it.
or can we get this?
Just once, maybe.
Well, you do, you have it.
Right.
You got the
That's
66
good.
You got the 66
I mean,
pages
that's-
for today.
Yeah, the only key thing you gotta be careful is, if you only get the pages that obviously have dollars on them,
Yeah.
if you start to look at the subtotals, they're not gonna total. Because if we give you some of the pages, each one of these categories has a subtotal. So if you get only those pages, and you try and do a total, you're gonna be lost. So again, like I said, you're better off just looking at the summaries, the subtotals, and look at the items that are included. Don't try and do any adding up together, because you'll be totally confused.
So
You don't have all the pages, I
So
guess.
if we get the 66 pages, then every month, can you bring us this to the meeting, or send us this separately?
We'll bring in,
You know, or
yeah,
send it-
whatever you think is helpful.
When
Yeah.
you get our invoices and when you
Yeah.
get DRA's invoices and any other invoices you have to approve, you also get
Yeah.
this one, which will be the cover sheet. So you'll see what they're billing that month.
Yep.
I will then also provide to you, attached to this, a summary of what they're billing.
Okay,
Billing each month, so you don't have to go through this unless you want to.
okay.
Of course, there'll come a time when every one of those 66 pages is gonna have a requisition on it.
So I'll
We'll have a draw.
summarize- I'll
When you get to the
summarize
point where all the
major
trades are
categories.
working.
Okay.
Mike, when this is signed, does it go right to Mary for payment, or does it have to go to the selectmen?
No, it goes from there.
It's going right to Mary?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's good.
We have a selectman right there.
Yeah, I know, but I mean the meeting. No, I
We're gonna
know
hang
that,
out.
but I mean, normally they have to sign off on the
Billy.
warrants, right? For payment, and apparently
Shall I
this is
put
a
the-
different process. That's
We
good,
stop now.
because otherwise it would,
The
you're not
gallows
gonna
now.
get 15 days. Good,
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, the selectmen
Needed
sign
to,
it.
there were
No.
none put
No.
out in the very end?
It goes with the warrant too. Mary gets everything before the selectmen do.
Right, no, I know that. Okay. But I mean, you can do it in the 15 days.
Well, no, that's different.
But-
Yeah,
Yes.
yes, I think is the
Yeah.
bottom line is, yes.
Okay.
How it goes into ProPay doesn't happen within the 15 days. The ProPay is what the MSBA reimburses on. That only goes into, this only goes into ProPay for reimbursement once it's paid.
Has to be
That's
paid
the
first
key.
before it goes to
The
MSBA.
MSBA won't process any of this until you
Right.
identify.
We have to cut a check within 15 days.
That's, exactly.
To the contractor.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sorry if I.
And then we get reimbursed. Well, that's,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
You always get reimbursed, quote
Okay.
unquote,
Yeah.
in arrears,
Yeah.
like your phone.
Okay.
And is the MSBA still on there? Are they, that 2 to 4 week turnaround with the reimbursement?
It depends on the enormity of the bill and how much they have to review and audit. If we do it right, it turns around pretty quickly.
Yeah, they're pretty good. They're
So
pretty
less
good.
than a month?
Yeah.
2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Less than a
Yeah.
month?
Not a biggie, I
Yeah,
would
they're pretty good.
No, the contractor is required
we
to pay
have-
within
there's
30
enough
days,
money
their consult,
coming
their
and
subs.
going.
He's got to distribute the
General fund, I would
file
think,
submit
covers
money
it.
within 7 days to the file submitters.
No.
By the time he gets the money, he's got
Yeah.
to,
So it's off of when he gets paid?
No.
that's right, he's got to distribute that within 7 days of receiving his money. Yeah. So the file submitters, he can do whatever he wants with his non-file submitters. That's between him and the non-file submitters. But with the file submitters, he's got to pay in 7 days.
Fun stuff.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions about the general contractor's invoice? So I'd like to make a motion to approve Brait's first invoice for $421,556.80.
So moved.
Glad you find it humorous.
See, I let the finance.
Go sit
guy
on
do
that side.
Wait till they start coming in for $2 million.
Okay,
Oh, I know, yeah.
so is there
Just
any
out of
more
curiosity,
discussion?
if we have to borrow money to pay this, because of cash flow, can we charge them for that too? Do they pay off of that, of the finance charges? They don't, huh? We have to eat that, okay. Just curious.
That is the next step we'll do, is work on a cash.
Yeah, we're borrowing it anyway.
We're borrowing, we're borrowing, we should have the money.
Ours is all borrowed, our money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's true.
We borrowed
It's
the money
already-
already.
Yeah, that's right, we have,
Not
okay.
yet.
Yeah, you've authorized,
Not yet.
you've authorized.
That's right,
it.
too, okay, you're right, okay.
We have short-term financing.
Until we really get into
When we
it.
get to the big
But
stuff.
we shouldn't get to that point. that We have to,
Okay.
that's all taken care of. Okay, so is there any other discussion on this?
Question, so this does not get signed by DRA
Yeah, it does.
until you guys walk in typically to the meeting?
Well, that's,
Close. Well, it can be any, yeah.
No, but
Yeah,
I'm
till
just
then a
wondering,
couple
are we
days, yeah.
seeing these, I'm just,
our meetings.
I'd like
in
to
the-
see a signature on something when it's 400
Our meetings. in-
25,000
oh,
or
I could have passed them around, I'm sorry.
million or
Stu.
5 million or whatever the
Sorry.
number
Our
is.
Copy,
meetings
but
are on
we usually take a
Wednesdays
copy.
in the field, when we hash this out back
Yep.
and forth. Usually the contractor, by the end of that day, has our final comments. So he'll process it on Thursday, probably hand deliver it to us in our office on Friday. So theoretically, I could sign it, maybe Friday, usually Monday, and we're showing up here Tuesday.
Would we be able to get the signed versions when we meet? I would just be more
When-
comfortable
When we
with
meet,
that.
yes, I have it right now, I just passed them over to Chuck there.
Yeah, the signed copies are right here.
Okay.
Yeah, I did sign it today.
The owner will get one.
Oh, yes, you
So-
get a couple.
Yeah, we'll
Couple of them,
keep
but I
one and then
understand
the
what
rest will
you're
be
saying, yeah.
distributed.
One for-
So
Well,
is this talked about then during the construction meeting? So if there was an issue, would it show up in those construction minutes?
Yes.
Well, they don't get that detailed where the comments literally get marked on a draft of this and given back
Yeah.
to the
Oh,
contractor.
pencil rack.
Yeah.
Pencil
Right.
in.
We
Make
do have
changes.
copies of that, if you'd ever like to see one, I guess you could, as Chuck says, they.
When we set up,
submitted for more than this.
the meeting, the second Tuesday of the month,
Mhm.
it's because at the end of the month, the contractor prepares a pencil copy. It gives us a week to go back and really do an analysis with everybody involved, so there's several days in there. So toward the end of that week is when we finalize it, notify the contractor, he prepares the finals, he gets them to us to give it a final review, gets it to DRA, so by the end of that week, we're able to get it okayed, signed, so it's ready to be presented at your meeting on Tuesday. That's the whole purpose of having this meeting the second Tuesday of the month.
So, my request would be for the board that's sitting here to actually have the signed version of it to be able to look at, rather than an unsigned version to look at.
Well, I
Can
believe
we
when
make
they
that-
send it out
can
to
we
us,
make
How
that-
it's their
soon?
signed
We can
version.
do that. Some
Yeah.
nights it
I mean, it
may be that
I mean,
we
if
bring
we-
it with us.
Yeah, I
but-
mean, bring it
Yeah.
with us,
We
but
could
have enough copies to
email it to you
distribute
as soon as we
and
get
whatever.
it.
I'm just
Right.
more comfortable with that
Oh,
personally,
sure,
rather
sure.
than not seeing the signed.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
'cause we could
appropriate.
say, great,
Yeah.
but over there, it's
Yeah.
$200,000 different. I
Sure.
mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
I wanna see what we're actually approving.
it's a fair request, there's no reason why we
You
can't do
know,
that.
and if we need, I mean, we have a photocopier here in town hall, if we need to
Yep.
use it, let's use it, you
Sure.
know?
Carl, we'll work
That's
it
just
out.
my
Sure.
Work out the
2 cents, you know?
You scan it and email it to us.
Sure.
We'll print it off and bring multiple copies.
I just think it's better in real time that we're seeing what we're flowing down here for signatures and
Not a
improvements.
Right,
'Cause
so
it's a
what,
big project, a lot of moving parts, and, I mean, I'm getting emails in 5 different capacities every time we're getting ready for these meetings, and I honestly trying to keep them together and, you know,
Yeah,
Who's on first?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's all.
Take care.
okay, so you guys will
We can do
bring
that.
that to the meetings?
Thank you.
if we don't have it. Okay, all right, any other discussion on the
We need-
invoices? No. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Mike, do I need one of those cover sheets for this, or can we just sign off on this? Ellie usually does the cover sheet invoice, and she's not here. I did it on one out of the 3.
Would be better to have a cover sheet, but since you don't,
How about if we sign on this and then I'll just fill out the cover sheet after?
Don't you have one that you're giving us?
You wanna take one with
Then
my
with a
signature on it?
Yeah, I'll sign that one.
All right, yeah.
Here, you can put your first top name on it if you want.
So you can just sign down the bottom. So you guys, and if you can just date it. Then we'll pass that along to Mike. Okay, and then under correspondence, the only thing I saw for correspondence, there was an email from the fire chief about some fire safety codes that was sent to you guys.
Right.
Yeah.
We've responded to that already. It's in process of, I think there were 7 items on there, about 4 of them.
4 of them are fine.
Yeah, we've already adjusted, and prepared modifications to either the drawings or the specs. 3 of them sort of require a little bit of discussion that we'll have back with the fire chief, because what he's telling us is different than what, you know, he told us previously, or wasn't mentioned at all when we last met. So
Okay.
we've copied the building inspector with where we're at and what our consultant's responses were there.
Anything significant?
Well, there's one or two, maybe one asking for a pull station on the exterior of the building, which is a bit unusual. It's,
Yeah.
you know, potentially subject to vandalism. It's outside the enclosed, you know,
Anyone can
lockable school.
walk up.
And he didn't ask for it previously. We can certainly do it. We just want to be sure that that's, you know, what he means, and we responded that way. And then, yeah, there's one about the Knox box, which is the
Key box.
key box that the fire department has access to on the outside of all buildings, so they don't have to carry a million keys with them. They carry one to that box, they open it, and the keys to the building are in there. Knox is a brand name, like Kleenex or something, but we all refer to it like Knox. But he actually has a different brand that he would like, but as we've explained to you before, in public bidding, we can't really write proprietary specs, so again, we'll explain to him what this means. We've already issued the specs, obviously. The contractor may well submit the brand he wants, and so we can see on that one. And then the third one that we couldn't respond to immediately was one that, again, caught us by surprise, because when we met with him, he didn't bring it up at all, but he's asking for, in essence, what's called a fire command center, which is what you see in high-rise buildings, which is sort of a dedicated room that, you know, the fire department responding to an event would have. They can unroll plans, they can use their phones, they can shut the door, you know, it's a space. And we don't have that in the school, we never have. But it's something you have in high-rise buildings. So again, we're not sure what he's asking for exactly,
I mean,
but he uses the term fire command center.
Yeah, I mean, just talk to him and,
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
try to
we're-
talk him through that one, because
Yeah.
that one's not required.
Right.
I mean,
So-
even in the high rises, you know, we joke because they're so big. They're 20 by 10. The room's 200 square feet, and
Yeah.
so we ask them if they want to have a pool table and stuff like that in there. It's never needed. I don't know why they have that much, but
Yeah.
whatever.
You know, so we'll clarify that with him.
Okay.
Carl, just a detail in that camp, and I don't even know if it applies, but they changed their code a while ago to, you can't have mulch within buildings within 18 inches. Go figure,
Up against the building?
go figure. So if you have it.
They want something non-flammable, like stone, that kids can pick up and throw. Not that George.
I'll
I'll
send you the,
Yeah.
the number for it.
Okay.
Show you.
Would that be a
He didn't
certain-
mention that one.
Yeah,
but,
that's,
Is that a
that's
Georgetown?
good,
Not that
that's
we
good
have-
to
Most of them
know,
don't
but-
know, I just learned it, I
Yeah.
was
Is
just
that
hit with
a
it.
Georgetown
Yeah.
thing or a Massachusetts thing?
Massachusetts.
Would be wood chip mounts, that kind of thing?
Any
that-
kind of flammable.
Flammable.
They want
You
18.
can probably
Like
treat the chips.
combustible.
You can
Could.
treat the chips. Yeah.
Those are
I'm
expensive
not sure we have
chips.
much of that anyways, but
Yeah.
I think they're on the building, but,
Or like a bush.
Okay,
okay.
all right. Under old business, Courtney, you said you had, a recommendation or something about the gate
Oh,
again?
right. We talked
something?
the gate. We talked over the gate design with our consultants, and they were somewhat concerned about safety and protruding objects if we were to have the gate arm out there without any vertical anchorage or anything. If like 2 kids were trying to go through on bikes or something, and there's a protruding object, they were somewhat concerned about that design. So basically what we're proposing is very similar to what we did last time, but adding a bollard off to the side, so that you still have the full width of the gate for the trucks and equipment to go through, but then you have your pedestrian area or your bike area off to the side that allows passage through. And it just kind of indicates that as passage versus just being, not having that extra bollard there. So we've talked this over with Warner Larson, they feel comfortable with this design, and moving that forward. The other.
And in plan two, it's sort of a smooth transition.
It
So
is.
if you are on a bike, you don't have to like stop and go around or even slow down all that much. It is kind of a S-curve or whatever,
Yeah.
to go around it.
Right. It's not like a sharp 90-degree turn or anything.
But this is in lieu of, remember, originally we had, chain and a sign, that would
Right.
be unlocked, and we all agreed we should go to the gate. It's more convenient for the snowplow guys and the fire truck to get through.
I thought we
and-
had changed to a gate.
So,
Didn't
We
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 voted
did
on
last
that,
meeting,
yeah.
and the fire chief actually approved this portion with the added box already.
yeah, we'd
Uh,
already
it's
discussed
just
that
adding
at
the-
the committee. We had
the
never
bollard.
issued a sketch to the contractor yet on the
Okay.
gate.
Right, right. We just wanted to run this by you one more time before we issue the official direction.
So now you're encouraging pedestrians to walk on it instead of an emergency, just for an emergency?
It was a
Oh,
request.
yeah, it's always
Oh, yeah.
been pedestrian
Yeah.
access, Tilly, available for that. Just you can't park cars on
It's
it.
actually a great, safe way for kids to
Yeah.
get up
Without
without having
cars.
to
Yeah.
Yeah,
go
there's
through
no
all the traffic
sidewalk.
that's
It's a nice
of the lined up
sidewalk.
cars, so.
What's the finish gonna be?
Porous pavement on
No,
the,
no.
oh,
The
sorry,
finish on the sign.
on
I
this,
mean, the gate.
Is
yeah.
it galvanized?
Is
the
it
gates are
galvanized?
galvanized. And then we could actually do a paint on these bollards over here indicating something, a different color or something like that.
Just curious what the finish was.
So the width is fine for fire truck?
Yes,
This
yeah, the
width,
bollards are
yeah.
set off the edges of the
Of the
width of
top.
the pavement.
I have a plan here if you want to look at it after, or it's just to look at the locations.
Yeah, can I just see the location?
There's one at the top up by the
I just wanna see
driveway,
how much-
and one at the back of the Johnson's property, so it's not down on Elm Street.
Yeah.
It's set back, 150 feet or something.
Yeah, if you look up
Is
at,
it-
So how wide's this gate gonna be? Is it like 12 feet?
It's
That's
that
10
way,
feet.
yeah.
It's 10, and what did the
Plus a
fire
little
truck
more.
need?
Well,
I thought the fire truck needed 10, that's what, or 8 was it?
Well, the pavement is
The
10.
pave-
I don't know if the dimensions are on.
I think it's
Yeah,
a little
the sketch.
wider,
It's
excuse me.
wider
It's
than
not
that.
on the sketch with the dimensions,
It's on the plan,
but
but it's off to the edge of the pavement, so the 10-foot remains clear.
And then the walking path entrance, that's off of the pavement?
right, the pavement kind
That's just a
of,
little.
That's the shoulder?
Loop around.
Yeah.
Just at the gate. Otherwise, it's 10 feet wide all the way.
Okay.
So is that porous pavement too?
Mhm.
The
Yes.
little loop?
Mhm.
Did you ever find a quote on what it costs to vacuum clean these porous pavements? I know we discussed it, but I don't think we ever got a follow-up on
We
it.
did follow up. I don't
Yeah.
have that with
I
me.
might
I
have
don't have
been-
it with
I might
me,
have
but
been
I
out that
believe
day.
it was in the range of like $500 per acre.
Okay,
We're talking about a straightaway, so I haven't
Okay.
calculated that out or
Okay.
anything.
It's a rental of a piece of equipment.
right.
yeah.
All right, so it's not a real crazy number, which is good to hear. Carol, how do you like that? You like hearing that?
It just, I mean, you can take another look at it, but it looks a little tight as far as the little loop around.
The
this
one
right
in the
here,
woods
Trevor,
or the
what we're
one
For bike.
One down on the bottom, yeah.
at the parent
So
drop
where's
off?
the pavement on
Yeah,
here?
kind of
Down.
The yellow,
Looks a little
okay.
tight.
For
Oh,
that,
yes.
the grading there's a little, it's
Freestanding.
doable. We could
Two.
expand a little bit if we needed to.
Yeah, just stretch it out a little bit, don't make it such a half round, but make it more.
This plan reminds me, where does, preparing those trees for the construction that's coming, where does that fall in the schedule? When's that gonna happen?
The root pruning?
Yeah.
We'll, actually, Warner Larson
There's stuff
plans
for that.
on, in terms of the schedule when it's gonna happen, Warner Larson is going to walk with Great,
It literally was, we
It-
stopped the work on a Friday.
Thursday,
and they- or
and then
Thursday
they were
night,
supposed
they
to
were-
go-
It was gonna be that Monday.
Yeah.
Right afterwards. They were gonna walk the edges to look at all the trees that were on the boundary and, which ones needed pruning. They weren't gonna do the pruning that day, but I
Yeah.
mean, they were gonna identify which one.
right.
And then, so probably it was, a week away. So when we start back up
Did you
again,
wanna
it'll
be
be
there?
within a week.
Did you want to be there?
Um,
Because I know you've been
It kind of
real
is what.
protective of those trees
Yeah,
for
it
so
kind
long.
of is
so.
what it is.
I believe Steve, Pajemski will be walking with,
Oh, is he?
with them as
Yeah.
well.
Mm-hmm.
He offered to.
Yeah.
But as of right now, we're not doing anything because we don't have the
Right,
go-ahead to
they're
go.
not touching the trees right now.
Will you let us know when that's
Sure,
gonna happen?
sure.
'Cause I-
Okay.
actually,
I think the ones down by Elm Street by the Johnsons are actually subject to this memo of, what's it called, memo of understanding between the town and the Johnsons that makes reference to the tree warden in town being involved in pruning those trees too.
I
So,
don't think we don't have a tree warden per se.
I think Peter Dirksen
Peter
wears
Dirksen.
that hat, believe it or not.
He does.
So you might wanna be there that day too, Rob.
He's the town factotum, don't you know that? I mean, you know, 5, 6
Better mark the
hats.
trees fast. Come on.
See his closet full of different uniforms. Tree wardens, highway
Let me go get the tree
surveyor,
wardens. Change his
snow
clothes, comes back
removal.
out again.
If it's brown, it's down.
you know,
Poor Peter.
turf cutter, I mean, you know.
Green Acres, I think.
Okay, all right, so you said you
We're
did
all those
review
hats.
this with the fire chief, Courtney?
Pardon?
You did review this with the fire chief?
He approved the design, the main portion of the design. This doesn't affect him so much.
Yep.
So he did approve everything associated with the gate last
Okay.
meeting.
Okay, so do we need to vote on this? I mean, it doesn't seem like it's,
No, it was just an update to let you know this
Okay.
is, and make sure there weren't any other comments.
okay, does anyone have any questions on the gate?
Oh, we'll take into consideration.
And this would cost
I
a
mean, I
little
think-
more than
Of the
the,
pavement that you
Yeah,
identified.
The
I think
chain.
just a more gentle entrance around that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
what, less of
Less of just a loop and more of a
curve?
little.
Jeff wants to ride his bike really fast.
Well, you know, you gotta think about that too, that you really don't want the kids going fast and you want them to slow down if they're gonna go
Right.
off like that, but you don't wanna make it so hard that.
Right, that they can't do it.
No
An
slaloms.
arc instead of a tight C, is that what we're thinking?
Right,
Okay.
right.
What's
All right,
it,
so-
Like an on-ramp, you know?
Yeah.
border?
On-ramp and off-ramp.
Yeah, well, you know what,
Someone's
maybe a little bit
someone's
longer.
gonna turn it into a slow.
No
Um,
gravel?
Now,
Wet.
the Johnsons, there's
I
no.
guess.
Right.
And they'll have fun doing
That's
it.
what.
Oh, yeah.
That was the
If you don't
request.
make
The
it
other
challenging,
side
it's
will
probably
have-
better.
Everywhere,
Oh,
once you
up-
get past the Johnson's property,
Up
there's
top
gonna
of it,
be gravel
Just to keep
on
it
each
clear
side.
of trees.
Once you get past that?
So anything, so if this is the Johnson's, this is Elm Street right here.
Yeah.
This is the Johnson's house. Once it gets past her property line where the gate is, that's where you start seeing 3 feet of gravel on either side of the porous pavement. And it helps with, prevent dirt infiltration into the.
Oh, yeah, the asphalt chip it up. If you don't have any kind of a collar to it.
Yeah.
Mike, do we have a copy of the memo of understanding?
We have a license, the memo, the MOU has not been finalized yet, however. Actually, attorney has been talking to Courtney about it, and the attorney needs some additional measurements. And I guess it's out of the scope of the present project, and so the scope has to be slightly expanded to allow some elevations and to be taken, so we can add that into the memorandum of understanding. And actually, I was hoping to bring that up tonight. Thank you for giving me the opening. But I don't know technically what we need. I just know we need some additional measurements and
Survey.
Survey, yeah.
so, Courtney, if you could explain what we need so they can approve it.
Right. When we met out there on site a few weeks ago, the request from Mrs. Johnson and her attorney were that we look into an ADA drive on her property that provides her ADA access to one of the doors on the south side of the property. There's 3 doors over there. So the goal was to get some elevation points of the grade as it is now, see which door was the minimally impacted in terms of the work that was needed to create the driveway and the access, the ADA access, which means it has to have the right slope for wheelchair access into one of those doors. So that's additional scope in terms of getting the survey itself and then working with our landscape consultant for the grading, just to make sure we provide easy access
So
into
this is
one of
part
those
of the
doors.
negotiation?
Right,
Is that
correct me
basically
if
what it
I'm
is?
wrong.
Well, it has been
This- it
The
has
idea-
been,
agreed to, we just need
Right, that the town would provide
to get,
this.
to
Right.
get a sketch and the actual, to get a sketch to add to the memorandum of
Right,
understanding.
that has those grades.
So this is a different driveway entry?
It's off of the.
No, it's the parking area, really. You
Really?
might consider that the access drive
So they're
Is
is
the
the
main-
driveway
is the
entry.
main
We're
drive.
going to
It's a
use that.
parking area
It's only
off
curb
of
cut.
that.
Okay.
So it would be working off of that.
George?
Yeah, is this something that's gonna be signed by the selectmen and registered at the registry, this MOA?
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
No. It's just, it's being signed, well,
It is a problem.
yeah, the chairman would have to sign it. But it's above and beyond, we have a licensing agreement for them to use the access road as their driveway. This memorandum of understanding is what we will be providing them in addition to allowing them to cross the access road.
Yeah, just that's a typical document that you do see at the registry, is a
Yeah, you see that.
memorandum of understanding, and that, I don't think to make it legal, they would register it.
I would think their attorney.
The
would-
license is being.
No, the license,
registered,
yeah, the
I would
license would be in
hope
there,
Not the MOU.
but not the MOU. The MOU is just an understanding that they have with the town. I mean, I wasn't part of it, but usually that's just a part of the understanding, and the town owes it to them, but it has nothing to do with a deed. What's deeded is the right to use
I
that
didn't say anything
driveway.
about deed, I just said the registry of deeds. Usually, that's a type of
Yeah.
document you do see at the.
But the
registry.
license, I would agree with you on, but I don't think the MOU would be.
Right, but it will be part, it won't be incorporated in the deed, but it would be, their biggest fear is being able to sell the property unencumbered in the future. And the license will, make the, whatever encumbrance there is official, so future owners will know what they're buying.
So as we understand it, in order to sort of uphold the town's part of this agreement, we need to provide some additional service here to get survey done on the property and to design a parking area that connects into the access drive there. So that's what we're looking to get authorization to get you a proposal, to do that. A little bit of survey, a little bit of design work. And then I would guess that ultimately we'd give it to this contractor, probably Mike, to price up
Yes.
the cost of actually constructing that parking area too, as part of this project.
All right, so even though this is with the town, this still falls under the building committee and our bucket of money?
Yes.
Okay.
It's far less expensive than building a whole new driveway.
Okay, so is this something that we need to address tonight?
Well, we still need to get a proposal, so we don't have anything to put forth
Okay.
tonight for you actually
Okay.
to vote on. But we're just looking for your consensus that that's what we should be doing.
Okay,
Because, we want to take direction from you and not directly from Koppelman and Page, who was, sort of trying
right,
to
so
get
Mike,
us
you're
to do this
recommending
for
that
them.
we do this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And
So-
this has been approved by the Board of Selectmen?
They have been, there was no vote, but
No vote.
we've had discussions about it. They're aware that it needs to be done.
Well, we're approving just to go ahead and
Just
get
to-
the proposal.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So at the next meeting, we would
They-
anticipate seeing a proposal from
They
you?
agree this is a better option than putting in a whole new driveway.
But I mean, my point being, I don't have any problem with that. I think you're right on. We're only approving you to go ahead and get the proposal. But I would want from the Board of Selectmen some kind of a mandate or whatever, or instructions for us to put this into the project, because it's not our right to put it in. I can't add things to
They
the
would
town.
rather, what's happened during this project is things come from the board to recommend to the selectmen.
We've recommended everything else.
Yeah, but
Right. So, but I guess his point is this is different.
this is
The
different.
town is
It's a different
telling us that they would like this in the project, and this was not part of our project. So,
I guess it's semantics, but it's.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this board should recommend it, and then we can then take it up as a meeting, in our next meeting, to discuss it, and if we need to take a vote on it, to take a vote on it. Obviously, any payments that are gonna be signed off on are gonna be in the warrant when we do it, right? For this, because this is gonna be outside of this scope of this. This is gonna be on the town, or is it actually in the?
It's
No,
gonna-
no,
it's gonna be
part
part
of
of
it.
this
It'll be
scope.
in this
It's gonna be
budget?
Part of this,
scope.
but I guess
Okay.
to give the lease, you have to do a warrant, right?
Yes.
I mean, a license or whatever it is, you're gonna need a warrant, I believe, right?
But we've already
No,
surveyed that,
the
the property,
license
so
is,
why is another survey?
You don't need a
necessary?
warrant to
Not
give
her.
up
It's her
rights
driveway.
onto some.
It's her property. It's
On-
going on to her property
On
now.
her
Right.
property, so we're gonna survey her property?
You might wanna just check into that.
Yes.
Some information.
Yes.
I mean, not a full-blown survey.
Okay.
Side yard.
Because I know that when
Yeah,
we
it's
talked
not-
about it with the rec path,
Between the house
When-
and the access drive.
when, when we talked about it with the rec path, I thought, and we can talk later on it, but I thought that if we were gonna get into an agreement, now it's reversed, but if the town was gonna get an agreement to get an easement over somebody's property, for something like a rec path or a driveway or whatever it may be, that I thought it had to go through a town warrant to approve that, but I could be wrong.
Oh, when you say a town warrant, you're talking about town meeting vote?
Yeah.
No, we're not giving up any rights. They're giving
They're
up
giving up
their
their
rights,
prescriptive
whatever
rights.
rights they think
Might.
they might have, they're giving them up. We own the property.
But you're giving them the right to use it by your license to them. It's just, I would just check it out.
Yeah, it-
Just to make sure, because
but it's-
everybody wants this to go through, but I just want to make sure it's right. You know, that's.
Well, that's, I mean, legal is handling
Yeah,
this
okay.
for us.
Okay.
So we're telling them what we'll do in order for them to give up their rights in the license.
No.
We're not giving up any rights.
Carl,
Right.
I'm assuming that,
You are,
keep
but-
the cost down and the type of drawing you're gonna get for producing the gate.
Yeah, it's not gonna take much since we've already got a contractor on board. We're not going out to competitive bids. We're gonna, give it to him as a change order to what he's already got. So we've already got pavement sections and soil specs and things like that, earthwork specs.
Carl, Mike, maybe you can, I wanna make sure I'm clear. You're saying that the work off of the access drive onto the Johnson property could be done by the contractor?
Yeah. That's what the
That's
legal
what we
papers have worked
understand,
out. That's
yes.
what the lawyers have worked out.
Yep.
It's all being done by Copeland. They've already passed judgment on it.
All right, so Mike, I will stay in touch with you then, and we'll figure out what the appropriate thing is, whether we recommend it to the selectmen or the selectmen are gonna recommend it to us.
Which way?
And figure that out. But, I mean, it sounds like if that's what the town has worked out, then that's the way to proceed.
So I have a quick question, Mike, on the license, that is then filed at the registry
Yes,
of deeds?
yes.
So when somebody searches the property, that will come up?
Yes.
So it's not an easement, it's a license?
Yeah, really, which is it? Is it an easement or a license?
Same thing, isn't it? It's the same, isn't it?
I've never officially heard the word license used to drive me. That's why it's legal.
Don't stop,
Okay,
because
okay.
I'm a slow
All right, so
reader,
we'll,
so.
okay. All right, so we'll continue on. Okay. Do you want to just give us a quick update on our monthly report, and then we'll, if there's
Well,
anything in
I
there?
think there's 500-pound elephant in the room, and of course,
I'm sorry, but did we wanna vote though, just to give them authorization for the proposal? We were on that.
Oh, do we need to vote to
But we don't
have
need
them
to vote?
proceed on the, just do, I don't think we need to vote to tell them to go
Generate.
forward with the proposal.
We can generate the proposal.
Huh?
We can generate the proposal. You're
Yeah.
not approving
Yeah, we're
that
not really
yourself,
approving anything, so
we can-
I think it's,
we can go
all right.
forward.
Well, thank you for updating us on that. Okay. Okay, yeah, because I mean, first on the agenda is really, you know, the update on the environmental testing results, which I'm not sure if we have too much more from where we were last week. Hopefully a little update on the health and safety plan that hopefully
Oh,
is.
yeah, all I can, well, I can let Kyle fill in, but I can tell you that we met with the general contractor last Wednesday, talked about having another meeting on Friday, which we did with the consultant.
Yeah.
Advised the contractor that everything was being done to obviously try and get something together to start to look at it so that we can get a price impact back from him and any scheduling information. Friday, we did have a meeting at the site with Russ and went through the preliminary information, talked about a lot of the issues that he had come up with, and talked about getting there were two different plans. One is a safety and health plan, and one is a soil and water mitigation plan. Those two reports were received, and we all agreed that we would obviously look at them and comment on them and talk about anything in there that we thought needed to be touched up, whether it was something that was questioned as to whether it be necessary or not to imply that we have any kind of expertise that they don't. But we went through the whole thing, and this is a copy of the report, and these are the copies of our notes that we supplied back to DRA, and they supplied back to their consultant. They did the same thing. They made suggestions and so forth, and they were going to touch up their report based on some of these comments that were appropriate, and then produce that hopefully the end of the day on Monday. It turned out to be actually today, and that report now has been submitted to the contractor, and we'll have a discussion with him tomorrow with some preliminary. He'll not have a lot of information, but just to obviously walk through it, see if he's got any questions. Russ will be there. We'll talk to him about it. In the meantime, it's ready to go to DEP. I was advised today that I think there's something that the owner has to do, something that Carol has to
Yeah, I
E
prepare
just
some
heard
kind
it.
of
I need to-
and then that'll go to DEP right away. So there'll be two things happening in parallel. Contractor will be looking at both those plans to see how it affects his project. In the meantime, it's going to go to DEP. The committee voted to move to a second opinion. Second opinion consultant has been engaged by the town. Mike made contact. It is the firm that has worked with the town in the past. I spoke to him today, as a matter of fact, to make sure he had what he needed. He needed a few more things, which he's going to call Courtney on tomorrow.
What was that?
Jim Luca. Yeah. And basically, he'll be doing his thing to come up with what he perceives to be a preliminary type assessment as to where we should be going. It won't nearly be as detailed as what W&B has prepared, but it's going to be just another feeling as to where we should be heading, and then we'd have the option of going further with him if we want to delve deeper into what the plan should be. So we've got multiple activities going on right now. We have the contractor that's going to be looking at impacts. We have the plan that's gone to DEP. We've submitted all our comments along with DRA to W&B, and he supposedly has done some modifications to the plan. And the contractor is going to be working on assessing where he is and coming up with questions, and I'm sure he's going to have a number of questions because some of the requirements are going to be difficult to put a price handle on. So we'll be working in conjunction with everybody to try and get this off dead center as fast as we can.
Do you have
Okay,
any,
so-
do you have any idea when there may be a sense of when construction's gonna start up again?
Well, certainly not going to start this week.
Yeah.
Certainly not going to happen this week, which is why we talked about Peter being on site. You won't find Peter there because there's no use having Peter burn up your hours, looking at a site that nothing's happening on. So our earliest guess would be sometime next week, but we'll know better once we hear back from Brait, once we hear back from DEP, because we really can't do anything until DEP says okay, nor can we do anything until we have some handle on what the price tag's going to be from the contractor.
The other ongoing activity too, Pat, is that yesterday, today, and I think a little tomorrow, they're
Right.
doing
Right.
additional borings
Right.
throughout both the construction side of the site and the playground side of the site.
Did they finish?
Russ
Wait,
thought he
did
might
they
have
finish
some
today?
results tomorrow.
It's tomorrow they
The
have
remainder of
They're
the
gonna finish
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that
Which
information
is-
that's developed, that's going to also go to the peer reviewer and to everybody else to touch up the report. But Russ has indicated that they allow that report that he's submitting, assuming he submits it tomorrow, that can be modified as the process continues.
Okay, so, and when do we expect to hear back from DEP at a best-case
I
scenario?
don't have a best guess.
They have to.
They have to respond back in 21 days.
21 days.
Russ indicated that they said they're going to work on an expedited basis. I don't know if that means they get back to us in 20 days or 18 days. or whether they're gonna get back to us within a week,
Okay.
so.
So what have they found so far? You said you found anything different than the last time?
They're finishing the
They haven't
testing tomorrow.
analyzed what they just
All
did
they've done is
yesterday
pulling
and
up,
today,
they're pulling
so-
up samples, and they'll be
They
sending them
started doing
for
additional
analysis.
testing yesterday. They did yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Just yesterday.
Yeah.
What,
It
what
was-
lab, can you find out what labs they send the testing to?
Sure. Do you know what offhand, or do we?
I'd have to look it up on the document.
We can look it up.
Could you let us know or let me know?
When is the LSP going to follow through with their testing?
Which one? You talking about W and B?
The one that the town is going to get?
Oh, I talked to him today. He's just getting information. He'll be getting more information tomorrow. I don't think we'll hear anything back from him with any kind of,
Well, he should be on it while they're gonna do more testing.
well, he hasn't, he just got his information.
I
He
understand that.
just
but-
got his contract. He's gonna be on it. I would guess it's gonna be at least a week before he can get back to us.
In the meantime, they're gonna be doing more testing.
Well, they're finishing the testing tomorrow. And then when they get that testing, that's gonna go to him as well.
Oh, so he's not doing his own testing?
No.
It's gonna be,
No, just a,
Just
yeah,
analyzes it.
it's
He's gonna be
great if
looking
you can
at
get him
their
right in
testing,
at
yeah.
the beginning,
Pat, who did you
to-
talk
so that he can oversee all of the
Who did you
testing.
talk to at DEP?
I didn't talk to anybody at DEP. I
Oh.
talked to Jim Luca at the peer reviewer.
Okay, so,
DEP is being contacted and communicated with by
Wilcox
W and B.
Martin.
By Amy's.
okay, so I was just curious who the conversation was that said they're gonna expedite it, cause.
Yeah, they have a name, I don't recall who that was,
I mean, it doesn't matter, cause it's gonna be
Someone
what it
in
is,
the
I was just
Northeast
curious.
region.
Yeah, it was a combination, it was a conversation
Yeah.
between W and B and
Expedited.
DEP, you know.
Kingsley, isn't it?
Yeah, we
I'm
have
sorry?
the,
Kingsley, Mr. Kingsley.
I don't know. I'm
we
not
have a
sure.
name for the case manager, but I don't have it here.
Yeah.
So,
It is what it is, I was just curious.
right.
So W&B wrote a plan of,
They got two plans, safety and health and a soil and water mitigation. There's two separate plans. And they both
only
contain,
heard the name once.
these are two separate plans that are contained in here.
Kingsley doesn't ring a bell.
But now DEP has to approve them. Is that,
That's right.
DEP has to approve them.
and how many, do we have somebody actually that's gonna do that, the monitoring of this?
Well, that's another issue. The monitoring and everything else would be done by a licensed site professional. We obviously have numbers, should we want to go with W and B. Well, obviously, we have the option of getting numbers from the peer reviewer to continue on that basis. But at some point, when construction starts, it'll be monitored by an LSP. Right now, he's unnamed.
But we're gonna get multiple proposals for that position?
Well, I don't know if it'll be multiple or two or what,
Or
depends
two.
on what happens, yeah, we'll see what happens, yeah.
So
We have to wait for DEP to get back for them to get trained. We talked about the workers getting trained.
Well, more importantly, I think
Or-
we need to know, we need to know from the contractor what he's willing to do at this point. Because he wants to know how this is gonna get done. If we start talking about training, we start talking about having them do extra contractual work.
Some may
So
already
we
be
have to, we
trained.
have to be,
Right.
we have to be able, so once he looks at what's required, then if his site contractor that he's hired has got the 40-hour necessary trainings, and the site contractor probably has people along that line that are obviously certified, because regular construction workers have to have a 10-hour OSHA. When you get into a situation where we have the condition that we have, you get into a situation where you need 40-hour for anybody who's gonna come in contact with soil and site work, and it could be the foundation guy and so forth, because they're gonna be in contact with soils. But we have to go to him and ask him, and if we need training, then we're gonna ask him to do something that we have to get him either to agree to do it on the basis that we'll work it out later, or he might want something now to say, look, this is gonna cost me money, I'm gonna ask subs to come in and go through training. That means getting them down, and they're not productive when they're doing that. So we're walking a delicate balance. We're gonna try and get people to be as cooperative as we can, to be as expedient as we can, and to get them to obviously do whatever we can do. And there's certainly motivation on their part. They have, every ounce of their energy would like to see this job get started. There's no benefit in, sitting and not working on the site. We've pulled equipment off jobs, now we're gonna bring equipment back in. So again, we've got to see, and we'll know better tomorrow when we talk to them about, is it advantageous? Would you like to get started on training? And yeah, we're willing to do that just to expedite the job without any obligations at this point. Absolutely, we can get that part of it going. But again, it's really going to be a matter of walking through that very delicate field to get people to be as cooperative. And I think so far they have been. They haven't been hysterical. They understand the situation. and they understand, I believe, what we have here is a marginally, you know, unacceptable site, and they want to get in here and get working on it.
Okay, now,
Carol,
go ahead.
I just wanted to add that just as part of this testing, they did the soil testing, but they also did the swatch testing on the inside of the school, so that's,
They-
I'm
this
waiting
week?
for results on that. And tonight, the custodians had a crew going over to Pembroke, and they just went through that school, got all the dust that people were concerned about is gone. I did do another posting today, so there's a new posting up. It does include a data table that Russ included. I'm not sure it's gonna satisfy the data people, but there is a data table in it. So that, if you wanna notice, there's another posting up, and for the public, they can check that out. And then tomorrow, we're having a community forum.
Right.
So.
What time is that?
Russ and,
I'm sorry, what time is the community forum?
6:30
At the middle high school.
middle high school.
6:30 at the middle high school.
And, you know, Russ's team will be there. It's not a posted meeting for any board, so it's really a community forum. And I'm sure they'll do a little initial presentation, on what they're finding, just make sure everybody's up to speed on it. And then really they'll answer questions from the public.
Okay.
They're really not gonna have anything new from the selectmen's meeting, is that, if I'm,
Well, I think what's gonna be different, Tilly, is going to be that there are people from the public who have questions that probably weren't asked at the selectmen's meeting. But in terms of new data, Russ said he may have some new data, you know, based on what he might get tomorrow. But he wasn't sure whether or not it was gonna be coming in before the meeting or literally as the meeting's going on. So if there's new data from any of the site testing, you know, that he can share, I'm sure he will.
where are the numbers now, the original numbers that
Well,
I think the committee ought to be
that's why
able
I'm
to-
saying I'm not convinced that the data people are gonna be happy with what's there, but if you look at what's there, it does talk about average concentrations. They're big picture numbers, whereas I think some people are looking for something a little more specific.
So, and that's on the
But
school
numbers,
website, right?
yeah, but numbers are interesting, because sometimes you get a data table and you have no idea what the numbers really mean. So, you know, I think they're trying very hard to comply and when the final reports are all available, then there'll be more data available. But, I wanted to have something posted with some numbers before the meeting tomorrow, because I know there are a lot of people who are very concerned about that. So, I don't know how many people will get the chief Cudmore did put out a code red, because it is a matter of community interest, not just schools. I did send out a Connect Ed message to the Pembroke folks. But, you know, I appreciate the fact that he sent something out yesterday, and we'll see. It's an opportunity for the community to ask their questions, rather than, you know, have their own discussions, you know, privately and not really get answers from the people who can explain it best. So.
When did you send the connected to Pembroke?
I put it in I had a Connect Ed message, I think, where are we now? Late last week, when I made a new posting. I put it in the post, there were 3 things on the Connect Ed message. One was the community forum, one was, there was a new posting up, and I can't remember the third thing. And I talked to somebody today and said, well, maybe Barbie, and said, would she prefer me to send out just another Connect Ed message to the Pembroke families? I'm happy to do that. I don't know that it's necessary since the code red went out, but, you know, I'm certainly willing to do it either way.
George?
yeah, I know, the library, reference room has different sites in town that have shown contamination,
Yes.
like, so you might wanna set up a hard copy repository in the library reference rooms, for people who some don't have internet and,
Yeah.
can't get postings and some come where and see the reports. I know DEP is in the process of, they scan all the documents now. I know before you used to have to go to Wilmington and, you know, pay 20 cents a copy unless you had a portable scanner, which not too many people did back then, but
No.
now they're scanning all their files so you can go and get the documents. I actually, you know, got this off their website tonight. That's the first document they have. But, you know, if you have card copies for people, it might help too.
Sure.
Okay. All right, so actually, we don't have that much of an update then from our last meeting as far as the environmental stuff. We really just don't have.
The meetings are becoming fast and furious,
Right,
so
and
there's
then-
not a lot of.
So, when will you be ready to share the soil and water mitigation plan and the health and safety plan with us?
Well, I think, again, they're gonna be submitting that tomorrow, so that plan's gonna be available tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it something that you could email to us?
Yeah, I think we wanna email it around the, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, so when you have that, and then, so, now this independent testing, is that for someone to come up with a plan like that?
No.
That's the next step.
This
That's
has
the
nothing to
ne-
do with the issue that we're talking about. This is the construction testing, soil testing, concrete testing, steel testing,
Soil
things of that
compaction
nature.
testing.
And it's a category that we've carried in the budget. Chuck is
Okay.
gonna walk you through it. It shows what we carried in the budget. We show what the numbers are there, what the budget is.
Yeah.
I always recommend to everybody, they look at it and figure you're gonna spend 10 or 15% more than the budget, because it's all done on unit prices. But Chuck will walk you through that now. We've advertised it publicly. These have been received through a public bidding, proposal process, and we're ready to make a recommendation. And quite frankly, as soon as the job gets up and running, we're gonna need them, because we need them to do some sieve analysis on some of the materials on site and so forth, so we're gonna be getting right into it.
Okay.
So with that,
But
if
can
you
I,
want.
can I just backtrack for one
Yeah,
second?
sure.
So, back to the two plans, we have somebody else reviewing those, right, the data right now, to come up with a plan, just to make sure that the plan that W&B did is kind of in line with what a second opinion would do.
Correct.
We have
Now,
that.
just so everybody understands, it's gonna not at all look like what
Yep,
you're gonna
yep,
be receiving.
I understand that, yep.
Yeah, he's got short dollars to do a quick review,
Yep.
analysis, and let us know, are we going off a cliff, are we way off base?
Right, so,
Yeah. It's gonna
yeah,
be kind of
exactly,
a.
yeah. Just to make sure that they're in the
magnitude of effort,
ballpark
yeah.
of if we need someone on site for 30 days or 60, you know what I mean, or,
Yeah,
so, okay,
yeah.
so you're working on that, okay. So then, if you can just send us that when that's done too. to
Absolutely,
prepare
yeah.
As well.
But again, that one there, you'll see the one that WB is doing, you'll see that tomorrow. What your peer reviewer is gonna do, you're not gonna see that for, I'm guessing, a week. Might even be
That's
the end of
fine.
next week, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fine, okay. Okay, go ahead, sorry, Chuck.
As Pat said, we solicited through Mike's office proposals from independent testing and quality control is actually what it's called, which is standard in the industry. It's a requirement to have an independent person look at, as Pat said, various materials, concrete, soils, but not hazardous soils like you're talking about, potentially hazardous soils and soil compaction, things like that. So when you're building they're, these things are being second checked and verified. Carried in the budget, $65,000 for these testing services. I think an email was distributed to you all with a breakdown of the 4 proposals we received. Proposals range from $37,428 up to $72,000. Quite a significant spread. The 3 lower ones were actually in a pretty good ballpark. We reviewed these with DRA and asked them for their advice as well as to who they've worked with. They all felt comfortable they've worked with, as we did, they've worked with 3 of the 4. So we therefore spent the time reviewing the qualifications of the engineers and the people that would be doing the testing. The lowest responsible person was actually the lowest bidder of $37,428, and it's a company called PSI, which actually stands for Professional Services in Industries. We're working with them right now on a project. They've been very responsive. They've been very easy to work with. They turn around their test results in as short as 2 days. They say they'll take 3, but they usually turn around in 2, which is very good news. They also are not charging us a markup, which is an interesting thing. A markup is they're not adding cost plus to turn around in 2 days or even less. So they actually turn it around for us at the same cost. If I ask them to do it the next day, I mean the day after. Their professional engineer cost is a little higher than everybody else, but to be honest with you, in all the years of doing this, I've never had to ask their professional engineers to step in, because we usually have a room full of them anyhow. So I normally don't. We don't weigh into them. We can't, basically, of concerns or disputes. So we've reviewed them. Like I said, I reviewed them with Carl. You had a $65,000 budget. That's right. Even though their price is at $37, this is not contradictory, correct. The RFP we did was not based on unit prices. We asked them for a hard price based on a set number of visits that we reviewed with Carl and his engineers. So we know what our costs are going in. A lot of these times, these things are, they usually hit us for reimbursable costs of trips back and forth from their office and additional trips to pick up samples and mileage and all the rest of that stuff. And I said, I'm not gonna play this game and fight with mileage. I want a lump sum proposal, period, end of story, which they did. So, we highly recommend. Yeah, it's the better way to do it. We've learned from a few mistakes in the past that these reimbursable expenses turn into a crazy thing, so they've included them in their fees. So it's good, so we know our costs going in. So Walpath's right, that's at $37,420, we're gonna assume another 10%, 15%, but our contract that we'd suggest to you to approve is for $37,420. The contract was approved by legal counsel before it went into the proposal, so there's no discussion there's no fighting about the contract. It was in the bid documents, they own it. Nobody questioned it or made any modifications to it, so this should be straightforward. So once you approve it, we'll fill out the forms, we'll send it to them, then we'll send it back to Mike's office for execution if you all agree, and we're off and running. So we feel very good about it. Again, somebody we work with, somebody we feel very comfortable with. So therefore, we recommend, with Carl's and Courtney's support, we recommend you award the contract to PSI.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
Services.
What do you make of their hourly rate being so much higher than everyone else's, yet their fee is so low?
I think they're using their hourly rate though, like I said, we probably won't even touch it. But if we do, we'll make sure we minimize it.
That 135, just to be, that 135, they
It's
don't probably,
extra.
they don't probably have any dollars in there in that $37,000 fee. So what they're saying is if you happen to need one of our professionals, it's gonna cost you 135. We're not gonna need one of their professionals. You know? Because if anything comes up with regard to interpretation of any of the geotechnical information or anything else, we're going to Kyle's geotechnical engineer, who's part of the job.
Can you share a little bit more about your experience with them?
They're doing a job with us right now.
About other jobs in the
Yeah.
past?
Yeah. I don't have any other experience with them, but they're doing a job with us right now, and we've had no problem with them.
We've done a couple projects that I can recall, Rob, there a few years ago. But it's sort of like, I don't know, umpires in baseball, if you don't know their name, they've done all right. Yeah, you know, these guys perform a service, if everything's gone smooth, I don't recall any issues with the quality of the service.
And you've worked twice with them before?
Yes, at least,
Where are they from? PSI?
Canton, Mass.
yeah,
Canton.
somewhere south of Boston.
But when I was reviewing their credentials, one of the things I was reviewing for is to find out the people that are actually gonna be doing the testing, that are gonna be interacting with Peter and I whenever we need them, where they're located from. So in case, we call the office to schedule their visits, usually a day or two in advance. Most of them are actually from this area. There's 2 or 3 actually from southern New Hampshire. So while their office is in Canton, that's just where the paperwork comes from. The rest of the people seem to work out of their truck or work out of their house. We have experience with all that. Thank you. We're concerned with a structural person that we had on another project that they did for us, and they've told us that person no longer works for them, so that was very good news. I said, well, who is it? And they told me he was in the proposal. We said, oh, we liked him, so it's good. We get into their credentials because Pete and I have to live with these guys for the next 2.5 years.
Yeah, we gotta live with them the next 30.
Good point.
We know where you live. I don't know where B lives.
Right next door.
Right next door?
Right around the corner.
Next town home.
All right, does anyone have any other questions, comments about? Anyone else? No? So you're looking for a vote from us, right?
Yes.
So I'd like to make a motion then that we approve PSI as the, what are they? Independent testing?
Quality control testing.
Quality,
yeah.
quality assurance, quality control for the project.
Construction materials,
For
testing, inspection
$37,428.
services.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved. Okay, and then the last thing is the approval of additional services from Wilcox and Barton. So I believe it's all, we have the cover page for PSS 10, that's what we're talking about, right?
Right.
Right now. And my understanding is that, I know you'll walk us through it, but this is all the testing that we know has to be done to date and to get us through the DEP and everything like that. So everything that we know to date,
Prepare the plans.
analyzing
Reporting.
everything, right,
Right.
coming up with the plans and everything like that, and being there for meetings and everything, all that is included in this.
That's right.
Okay, so if you could just walk us through the amendment 1, 2, and 3?
Sure.
Oh, actually, yeah, I think some of it we actually talked about last week. We
Yes,
talked a little bit about amendment 1 last week,
You know,
because we had approved that.
the Phase 2 investigation had a certain amount of testing, but then once elevated levels were encountered, additional testing was needed. So Amendment 1 was to do that additional soil sampling that they did throughout the play fields and a few by the leach field in the construction zone. It included analyzing those samples and notifying and coordinating with DEP. That's sort of the first task they did. 13,850. The second major task is then sort of dealing with that information, doing research, conferencing, public meetings, and analyzing the risk and health assessments of those and assisting in public communication. That's the not to exceed 15,000. So they would bill against that in a hourly fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Then there were several reports and plans that they had to formulate and put together and document and submit to DEP. The health and safety plan, the one that will get you the final version tomorrow. The soil groundwater management plan. And then because they've notified DEP, there's a plan called the immediate action or immediate response action, IRA, status report. All of these are contained in Amendment 3 if you look at the backup from Wilcox and Barton. Then they did the testing yesterday, today, tomorrow for additional borings. That's in there as well, subsurface investigation. And again, analyzing the data and all, and not just doing the borings. As Carol mentioned, going through the inside of the school, doing wipe samples and analyzing those. And then they've included a future task, which is updating the report to DEP, that once you notify them, you have an obligation, I forget if it's 60 days.
Yeah, 60 days, you have to do the update of the imminent hazard evaluation.
In a couple months, you have to go back and update DEP as to what the status, what the actions were, what the current status is. So collectively, all of those tasks add up to $74,600. As I mentioned, at least one of them includes a hourly not to exceed, because it sort of depends on how many meetings there are and how much communication is needed back and forth. The others are lump sums.
Okay, now, have you had to deal with stuff like this before, with this type of documentation, to understand if these costs are, like, within the ballpark?
That's a little hard for us to say. These things are fairly unique, Michelle. We haven't had too many go through, a similar kind of process that I could really compare with. So, as Pat says, having a second opinion is good for reasonableness, but, we don't have that evaluation of these tasks, really.
Would the LSP that the town's engaging or has engaged be available to?
Sure, I'm sure he would, yeah. Yeah, this is what he does, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's critical that he be in on the initial testing. That's really key. I
So-
wish he was already there, in other words.
So they've done a lot of this work already?
They have
They've done.
Almost
yeah.
all of it, right?
almost all of it.
Right.
I'd say by the end of this week, it's done.
Right, I mean, you know,
You're in the
on-
wrong
Well,
field,
except-
right?
on-
Yeah.
right.
Except for the 6-month up,
Yeah,
the
that
60-day
4,000,
update.
yeah, that
Right.
4,000 down the road.
Right.
Right,
I mean, they did that
And,
because they were.
and they have some time in there to
Right.
negotiate and discuss
know.
with DEP too,
Yeah.
so
George?
there's a little bit not done yet.
You know, what if people in Georgetown decide to petition DEP for a public involvement plan? That might mean more outside the scope of that budget, because then the DEP would require the LSP to attend public forums at every step. You know, I was involved in a public involvement plan in Georgetown, so.
Well,
I
that's
think-
why that one task is sort of an hourly not to exceed, that involves, you know, community outreach.
Yeah.
In there. I'm not sure what the extent you're talking about, but that probably would be beyond that scope.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they are attending tomorrow night's community forum, that's
That's
within
part
there.
of.
Right.
That's outside.
Yeah, I mean, this is everything that we know to date, that we know we had to
Right,
do,
right.
had to get done to satisfy DEP, to get the information that we needed to understand what we were actually facing, so. I don't know if anyone has any other questions on that, but I had asked Chuck to also prepare, just, you know, let us know where all this money, because obviously, I know we have some contingency money, and we did have some budget line item money, but just to see where we are, because, you know, these were a little bit unexpected.
Got more spreadsheets for you.
Yep.
I can do paper. Attached to, it was, looks like this,
It was
it's
this.
a two-pager. Okay. This is your regular monthly report budget summary, but it's updated as of leaving the office at 6:30 tonight to make sure that this PSS 10 information was included in it. On the second page is all of the DRA professional services supplements, the PSSs and amendments to date. You see it's broken into two categories, the feasibility study, all the PSSs we did there that include land surveys, geotech, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then right below that, and that number, 134,950, is actually included in the feasibility study phase. It's not coming out of the construction phase of the project. PSS 5 through PSS 10 are the ones that were done during the design phases for some additional wetlands flagging when Conscom wanted us to look at additional potential wetlands area. That was included in here. It also includes PSS 10 as you just reviewed it, and it includes PSS 9, which you voted earlier and voted actually tonight to pay a little on. So that comes to 123,720. If you flip the first page, the summary, you'll see there's a budget line item called A&E reimbursable services of $201,500. That's where these PSSs.
Where's that?
On the first.
about halfway down.
Halfway down.
Bottom of A&E.
On the first page, yeah.
I'm sorry, the copies are so bad to read that. copies
Yeah,
are-
which one? Reimbursable?
It's called A&E reimbursable services. This is exactly where these things would have always come from. So there was a budget of $201,500. That $123,720 from the second page comes from that line item, which leaves you a budget of $77,780 that's not been spent yet or committed to anybody. I don't say spent, I mean committed. I'm showing you commitments, not what's spent and paid.
Okay.
I should have reported to you, I should have shown you as before, when we were talking about PSI, down below, it says testing services, $65,000 line item.
Yep.
That's where you'll see the $37,428 you just voted. Shows that there's a balance there of $27,572. We suggest that this testing service line item, you hold on to this one.
Yeah, I wouldn't let that go. You never know what's gonna happen.
There could be a geotechnical issues, structural related issues, those kind of things. We like to make sure don't have to come back to you to ask you to move money from somewhere else for that. So, back to your $77,780, that's what's left. The other line items above, I shaded one as other administrative costs. This is where we're doing printing costs, bond costs, legal fees come out from the line above. So I'm only showing you those as line items where you usually see these kind of things drawn against. So, bottom line is under A&E reimbursable services, the $77,780. Of that, the only other thing I know that is in the wind that would go against this is the survey work you just talked about doing for the Johnson Property Connection. That would be additional services to DRA that would come out of that line item when we know what it is. We'll, and you approve it, we'll put it against that.
Who's gonna
line
do
item.
that work?
Sammy Otis would be the surveyor.
Who's done all your survey work?
And I assume DRA, the consultants
a
will do
little
any
bit of-
little
Right.
design.
You know, landscape design
Very
there.
minimal.
So the next question becomes, so therefore, you have budget line item for these kind of things. We put it
Yeah.
in ahead of time, not knowing what you might hit, and did a pretty good job in covering it to show that you've got this left over. What does that mean going forward is if you get into the construction phases and either of the peer reviewer, of the other LSP that's reviewing the plan, or is gonna make his own plan up, or Wilcox and Barton will bring forward which will be a PSS, I don't know whether it be 10, 11, or 12 by the time we get there. Where that money would come from, I don't know how much that's gonna be, but I'm led to believe it's going to be more than your 77,720. That's when we would come to you and say, from your owner's contingency line item below, we would ask you to vote a transfer of money from the $455,722, we would ask you to vote an appropriation to move up into that testing line item to cover any additional testing we'd have to do during construction. We'll get there. We don't know when that'll be. We'll work out the details over the next few weeks, and we'll get there moving at that point. That's the only other place it would come from. It would come from owner's contingency, because those are for soft costs, expenditures, not hard costs.
What was that other 12.5 that we did out of owner's contingency? What was that? What did we already spend?
Oh,
was that
that's
for?
actually, it's a placeholder for where we was actually putting some mailings and some printing. I have to move that to the other items. It shouldn't be there. It's appropriated in another place. It needs to be cleaned up. I have to verify that with Mary, that it was, what categories they're actually in.
Okay, okay.
I had two questions.
Go ahead.
Before you do that, I just want to, just two quick items. When you look at those numbers and what it says remaining items, bear in mind, the job came in $4 million under the original
was one of my
arrangement,
questions.
okay? It came in under $4 million. They're gonna rewrite the whole arrangement. So when you look at these numbers, they're all gonna be less to the benefit of Georgetown and the state.
Well-
So when you look at those remaining items, those items are, all those items are gonna come down.
Well, the only thing I would say to that is, this is your budget. This is based on your appropriation, your
Right.
town meeting. form.
All right, so
This
let me ask you a question.
doesn't apply-
So-
This isn't.
Chuck
the
is
MSBA
100% correct. The money that you've allocated for this project is the money you've
46,
allocated for this
169,
project.
Correct.
MSBA is gonna rewrite their deal, and they're gonna reduce the amount of the reimbursement because the cost of the job has come in less. You still have that 40, whatever it was, 47 million. You still have that to spend, but again, the state looks at what is the job gonna cost you, and they're gonna base their reimbursements on the revised 3011.
Right.
They're gonna do the same thing they did last time. They're gonna take the site dollars, they're gonna take the building dollars, they're gonna stir it into their formulas, and they're gonna come back and say, our revised reimbursement is gonna be less. But again, the total cost of Georgetown is also gonna be less because the job came in under budget, unless you decide to spend it in other areas.
Well, we're going to have additional costs for the high school.
That's got nothing to do with
It
this.
has
Yes, I
nothing to do
know,
with this.
but
Yeah.
in terms of the impact on the tax rate is what I'm
Oh,
thinking.
no, I understand, yeah, certainly that's gonna have impact, but right now,
We haven't
this is a
approved that yet.
standalone right now.
No, but I'm thinking
Don't jump
about it.
ahead.
Do you have another question then, or follow-up?
I had two questions. One is, can you, as our representatives, as we go through these numbers, can you point out to us every time we go through these numbers, you folks are looking good, you folks here, and here, we have concerns about? Can you make a real effort? That would
Well, that's
help.
what this is gonna do on a monthly basis.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, as just one member, so I come in with all this stuff and I'm looking and I'm listening and whatever, I can use your guidance to highlight and
Sure.
put a flashlight on particular items that
Yeah.
need to be discussed.
Yeah.
You'll get,
So that's one.
We used to
you'll
do-
get as part of the monthly report. When we send it out prior to your building committee meeting, we'll send it out in advance, so you get a chance to look at it. I will always when there's issues or concerns or projections, I will asterisk and I'll make footnotes, and you'll say, we're going to talk about this line on this item, exactly what you just said.
Great.
I do that as a rule of course, so that that gentleman over there we are on the same page, he's looking big picture, I'm looking at your big picture, 46, 169, 400. That's the number. What you choose to do with it within there, only you people get to do that. I can't do that. You get to vote it that way.
Yeah, and we
I'm just
also,
gonna report.
So do you keep the warrant article number in here, or are you gonna revise this based on the new 3011 to the MSBA?
I'm gonna, this is yours. This doesn't have anything to do with the MSBA.
Yep.
Okay, so once you revise the
Once we do-
3011 and they change all their reimbursement, we're still gonna see this?
You got it. This is what you voted.
Well,
Unless you tell me.
well, wait a minute, though. Shouldn't we have this revised to match up with what the actual costs are, and then have a separate line item down there that's the difference between what
we could
we've
give
been
you the-
appropriated
we could
and
give
what
you the
we've been,
differences.
and what we're actually should be spending? Because I would rather keep an eye in a managerial sense on where we should
Or
be,
what the cost is.
not
if
with
it's
what
quoted.
it is based on a
What we were
project
to
that
bid
costs a
on.
lot more.
Right.
and that
It
ties
holds our
in,
feet to the fire a little bit more.
and that basically ties into, you have a scope and budget agreement with the, with MSBA. And despite the fact that you're gonna have more money that you could spend, we would always recommend that we take those requests to MSBA, because you don't wanna violate your scope and budget agreement, because even though you have X number of dollars, when the job comes in under budget, they don't want you to do stuff outside the basic scope of the project. You know, they don't want you to build another wing on the building because you happen to have those dollars. They would be very unhappy if you did that. So even though you have the dollars to spend, and if they're necessities, MSBA is never gonna say, don't do it. But you can't come in here because you have the dollars, even though they're sitting there and you wanna spend it. You can't come in and violate the scope and budget agreement by doing something that is not contained in the scope and the budget that you agreed to build around with MSBA.
Well, I think the rest of the town would be upset too.
I
So,
was gonna say, 'cause I think the
We wanna get that
concern
number
Yeah,
as low
get that
as
straight.
possible.
Right,
If
right,
I could,
because,
1 second, Jeff, let me make sure, I'm gonna clarify your question.
Go ahead.
You're 100% on the mark, you're dead on. If you look at the column called uncommitted balance remaining, and I didn't get a chance to weigh in on this one yet. If you look at the uncommitted balance remaining, there's one
4069.
4069,
looking at that.
465. In scope of things, as we've budgeted out and scoped that project, that's money we don't need, quote unquote, unless you run into an overrun of somewhere. What I'm gonna do, once the deal's all worked out with the MSBA, I'm gonna take that 4,069,465, 465, I'm gonna put it down on the bottom as a separate line item, so that you're right, so that your budget reflects what we projected we would do all the way through. This is what you choose to do with it after the fact.
That's the way to do it,
That's just-
absolutely.
That's so
Because
that
you're-
it's
Then
not
how does this
included
not
in the
really-
project of anything.
4 million
Right.
isn't
Oh,
really
no, it's because they
available,
have-
it's only
Yeah, you
2.
pull it down below.
Because
and
2
you-
of it
Pull
is
it down and straight.
reimbursable.
Yeah, because you have your
So they're
construction
gonna take
contingency
that
down
out.
But
below.
the other point to
Right.
just remember is that at least as far as financing goes, you know, it's not like we have to go back to our financing people and say, hey, all of a sudden we need another X amount of dollars every time we run into
Right.
something.
Right.
So, but I'm not looking at it as a contingency
Nope.
unless,
It's not.
unless something really, really happens that we
Right.
absolutely have to do and there's no choice about it.
Call it an
So-
underbid figure, for lack of a
Right.
Yeah.
But
You
we
guys
are
know
gonna
better
have to go
too,
back
but it's
to
an
the
underbid
town
amount.
for the high school.
Yeah, that's totally different, yeah.
Well,
Totally.
But
That's a
it really
separate-
isn't totally different.
Well, it is,
I think
because
it's gonna
it's a-
be viewed
it's
as
a
part of the
footnote.
same
Which,
package.
which line is it
it's a
that we
separate
have the 8% that we
meeting
are
at least.
responsible
Oh,
for?
right.
Yeah, yeah.
No, no, I
That's the
understand
total
that.
cost, so if you say,
Yeah, that's in the 3011, Ellie. There's another form that, there's a reimbursement calculation,
tied
and that's where that
spiritually
shows up. It
by
doesn't show up here.
MSBA.
it doesn't show up here.
No.
So as you're cutting back,
Not making
you're
sense
also
to me.
cutting
Yes,
that
that's
number.
true.
And it's
Yeah, I think
8%.
everything, as the job went down, everything gets cut across the board.
Yeah, I think we ought to keep track of that number.
Well, we're gonna do that as soon as
Get
MSBA,
a spreadsheet on that
as soon
one.
as MSBA
Actually,
gets the
25,
information,
right?
they'll produce a
Close to
revised
26.
bid-based
So,
It's
budget
what our
and reimbursement
projected
figure.
Yeah,
impact
yeah, because
tax
that's where
rate was
we're
based
running
on.
into
Yeah,
now.
26
and that's what we have to
Yeah.
keep track of.
Right.
That's
That's
what we-
exactly right.
Yeah.
All right, so you know what? I'm sorry, I'm just not getting this
I'm
right
not
now.
seeing
I
that
am
on
just
here, no.
very confused on something. So you're not gonna change, so
Yes,
that.
he's gonna change them, whatever can be changed.
Yeah, like, so that construction number should not be 36 million, it should be 32 million.
It is 32 million.
Yeah, see where it
Under
says
the
committed amount?
Yeah.
And the figure next
32.
to it, the 4 million is what we're under budget.
Right.
And those numbers are gonna come out and go down below the line.
And we're gonna pull
Okay,
that 4
so-
million and bring it down below.
And then anything else that.
The
I
4
don't know if
million you're
there's
gonna bring
anything else.
below,
Right.
okay.
Because the real bid came in at 32, not 36.
Anything else that's gonna
Right,
change?
because, yeah, like Jim and I were just like, I mean, our eye is on the 25.8 million that Georgetown was, that was our share.
Right.
And we wanna make sure that, no matter how the monies flip around and
Yeah.
that there's $4 million extra that we didn't use, obviously with the reimbursement changing, and the cost going down, the site work going down, our reimbursement will go down a little bit, which is good, because then it'll lower the number.
Everything's gonna go down.
Right, but then we just need to make sure that we keep track of where we fall within that 25.8.
And again, when we do that, when the MSB does their calculation, they're gonna break it right out. They're gonna show you what they're gonna reimburse and what your share's gonna be.
All right.
And your
And that's what we
25.8
want,
will be
that's
less.
what I would
So-
like to see carried,
Right,
is
so now,
that
so we should see
particular
that,
number.
assuming that we're not meeting for another month, we should see that new 3011, basically, right?
Yes.
And I would say in the next 3 weeks.
Okay, so for our next meeting,
Yeah.
we should be able to look at that with, okay.
Yeah.
And Michelle, I asked him to keep track of the 8%.
Yeah, no, I-
With site work.
The site work. As this number goes down, we're also gonna have more costs on that 8%.
Right, and that'll show up when they
It's in
have,
the
come
same
up with the
calculation.
revised.
That's what, if
You're
they
gonna-
could
it'll-
do
that'll
that
be-
next time, just
that'll-
like this, I think it'd be helpful.
Well, that's gonna be an
No.
MSBA's calculation. MSBA is gonna show you that.
Yeah.
They're gonna do the computation.
So we should see that next time.
And we'll pass out a new 3011 at the next meeting, assuming we have it, and we should have it.
So then the only number that's gonna change is, on this, is the construction cost, and it's gonna go down below the line. Okay.
Okay.
I'll make it a lot clearer.
Juggling
I have
act.
to show it to you this time because it's a process. If you show me each step, if I do it all at one time, trust me, you'll kill me.
Well, right now, the site is the issues. That's the big one.
The site, right.
So that's
This
why,
exercise was to show
let's
you
keep
that-
track.
Okay.
That you've got within your budget the keys to all of these PSSs for this, except for the monitoring phase going forward.
I think
Okay,
one thing that we talked about, Stu and I were just chatting a little bit on the side here, and I think that you were sort of alluding to the same thing, is that we went to the town for a certain amount, and that was for the 46, 169,
169, right.
et cetera,
Correct.
400. And all of Mike's numbers for the town with increased taxes were based on that. We also went to the town with guesstimates of the high school.
Right.
Now we have a little bit more information, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that those numbers went up.
Right.
From what we originally thought, but this number went down. So the analysis that would be good is to find out overall. It's not the combining of the two projects exactly, but it's the thought of what the overall burden to the town is gonna be.
Exactly.
Based on
Right.
what we knew then and told everybody and what we know now. That would be a good number to go through and
Yes.
find out for
Yes,
everybody.
yes.
Well, and hopefully after the MSBA meeting, we'll have a better idea,
Yep.
right?
I'll tell you what I'd like to see happen, I'll be honest with you, is I'd like to see what the overall cost impact is gonna be based on the soil situation that we have. And I'd rather have that straight into the equation now and have a 3011 written around that than have to fumble around with that later on as a change order to MSBA. So that's why, again, it's gonna be important for us to try and,
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
try and get
that's-
everything.
that's good.
Let's start off with a
That's good.
clean slate.
I agree with you.
You know, and that's what
Right,
we're
right.
gonna, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get all the information together, both on the consultant side, on the monitoring side, and what the impact of the general is gonna be, and trying to get that together as fast as we can, so that we can, A, mobilize construction, and get a financial look at where we are, to see how much we wanna go back with, and have MSBA agree to write the deal around all the information that we know, so we start fresh.
Yep.
No change order, no negotiating with them later on.
yep.
This way, we'll have a clean look at the 3011, a clean look at the reimbursement dollars, and we can start
Start
with a
there.
nice, clean
So we
slate.
can do that,
That's what our goal is.
and they are,
Yeah, they're doable
Willing
goals.
to-
Yeah, they're doable goals, yeah.
Okay.
They're doable goals. We need a lot of cooperation from the contractor, a lot of clarifications from the consultants, whoever they may be. We need, obviously, a, economical way of doing the monitoring on site.
Yeah.
And pulling all those things together, hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have it ready for you.
Okay,
Needless to say, we'll be talking continuously as things are moving along, but, and getting you information, but that would be our goal, is to try and start with a fresh, clean slate and get everything straight into the equation.
okay. All right, so, unless anyone has any other questions on that, we are looking to, well, actually, I guess as a committee, even though it was approved, we need to approve, PSS 10 for $74,600 for Wilcox Environment Amendment 1, 2, and 3.
So moved, is that?
Second?
Anybody have any other questions? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Reluctantly, aye.
Yeah, really.
All right, so that is approved. Do I need anything from?
We need to sign your copy that you're signing as well.
All right, do you have a clean copy? I have my notes written on mine.
Yep.
Oh,
The cover sheet. Yeah, just the cover sheet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know who signed it typically, but, for the town.
Okay, so our next meeting is December 10th on the third floor. The only reason that we may need to meet earlier is if something pops up with the soil or construction, which
Yep.
might be a good thing. If so, we'll keep you guys posted, but if not, our next meeting will be December 10th. And then I did confirm the following meetings that are at the bottom of the agenda. So we are confirmed for those all on the third floor on Town Hall. So, there's nothing else? I'd like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Oh, wait a second. As long as everybody knows they have to sign this, right?
Yep.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.